Okay, g'day everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, AI in Vegetables, Practical Tools for Growers. My name is Clinton Muller from RMCG, and I'll be facilitating today's session on behalf of the Soil Wealth and Integrated Crop Protection Project team. Just before we get underway, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands we're joining from and pay my respect to elders past and present. I also extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people joining this webinar today. To note, this webinar is delivered by the Soil Wealth Integrated Crop Protection ICP project teams. This is a co-delivery between AHR and RMCG and funded by Hort Innovation using the Vegetable and Melon Research and Development levies with contribution from the Australian Government. We're just doing something a little bit different today, and we're partnering actually with another Hort Innovation levy funded project. For those playing at home and like to keep track of the codes, VG24008, exploring AI applications for the vegetable industry. So this is a project delivered in partnership between RMCG and the Australian Regional AI Network, or ARAIN. So there's some like-mindedness between these two projects as they both aim to support growers and the broader industry explore how new technologies like artificial intelligence, AI, can enhance productivity, sustainability, and also support decision-making on farm. So what are we discussing in today's webinar? Over the past 6 months, that particular project that was exploring AI applications has been unpacking what AI really means in a practical or on-farm context. And so the project set out to identify some specific use cases. It became quickly apparent that the biggest opportunity right now is to build confidence in the use of AI tools. So the message we heard through that project was that many growers don't know where to start. They feel uncertain about which AI tools to trust and really are looking for some simple, reliable ways to trial AI in their own businesses. And that's exactly what we're going to try and tackle today in the webinar. So taking those insights and tackling them head on. So I'm absolute pleasure to be joined by a couple of growers who are already putting AI to work within their businesses. So very keen to hear their perspectives and experience, but also drawing in some AI technical expertise to demonstrate some practical tools. And we really hope leave you with some ideas and confidence to start exploring AI in your own operations. So just a bit of housekeeping for today's session. It is being recorded, and we'll make sure the recording and key resources that we talk about today are available through the Soil Wealth ICP website after the event. We'll also have some time for questions and discussions towards the end. We realise it's a really important topic. A lot of people have some great questions they want to explore. So we really encourage you to ask that on the chat. I'm joined by my colleague from RMCG, Dimi Kirikou. So she'll be looking after the chat as we go along. So please feel very welcome to ask your questions away as we go. So a bit of an overview for our agenda. I'm going to be quiet in a second and pass over the mic to Heath McKenzie from Boomeroo Nurseries. He's going to provide some bit of insight in terms of what's happening at Boomeroo and how they're using AI to support their business operations. We're then going to head over to the west to Jake Ryan from 3 Ryans and share some pretty cool stuff those guys have been up to with a grower-led study to explore and develop an open weed locator and discuss how that project is evolving. And finally, just going to hand over to Ben Finkel from the Australian Regional AI Network. Ben's going to run through a couple of demonstrations for us. And over here, he's got some pretty cool tools in development to show us how they can be applied within your business. Certainly do encourage you, though, to fire away their questions. This is a really important topic and love to hear your thoughts and questions and clarifications. So we're all ears today and hopefully going to provide some advice to those questions that are burning for you. So without further ado, I'm just going to stop sharing and invite Heath McKenzie from Boomeroo. He's got a presentation prepared that's coming up. And Heath, as that's coming, it's all coming through very clearly. The floor is completely yours.
Fantastic. Thanks, Clinton. And hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in this webinar today. So yeah, as Clinton mentioned, I'm Heath McKenzie. I'm the Business Development Manager at Boomeroo Nurseries. And I guess like many businesses and indeed individuals like yourselves, we're on a journey of discovery, I guess, with AI. So over the next few minutes, I'll run through some of the ways that we're seeing AI having an impact on our organisation, and hopefully that'll prompt some thoughts at your end in terms of how you can use it too. I promise that's probably the only joke, the AI joke, I'll slide in there along the way. But there we go. All righty. So just want to give you a bit of a background into Boomeroo to kick things off. So we are a family-owned business. So 3 Giacometti brothers started the business nearly 40 years ago now. They were veggie farmers in Werribee South and decided to grow some veggie seedlings, and indeed they're still doing that, albeit at a much larger scale now. So we're now Australia's leading producer of vegetable seedlings. Hard to tell, but I think somewhere around a third of the veg you buy. So things like lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, leek, celery, things like that. Yeah, there's a very good chance if you go and buy that at your local greengrocer or supermarket that it started its life in one of our nurseries. So from the very get-go, the Giacomettis were always looking to innovate and be ahead of the curve, and that continues today. Where we play a really vital role in the food security landscape in Australia, and we take that role very seriously. And of course, as we go ahead, we're just always looking for any opportunity we can to go to the next level on a whole different range of things. So just quickly, these are our two sites that we operate. So our original site there on the left is in Victoria, down in Lara, just near Geelong. You can see the Yuyangs in the background. And that's been around since the start of the business some 40 years ago. And on the right-hand side there, we've got our site in Southbrook, which is just outside Toowoomba in southeast Queensland. And that one's come online at about 2020, I think, in the midst of the pandemic. We brought that online. So between those two sites, we produce a few 100 million plants a year. So we keep ourselves busy, as you can imagine. So I thought I'd take you through looking at horticulture and agriculture over the years, but through a boomeroo lens. So if we go back to the good old days where most tasks were completed by hand. So in our case, it's things like seeding, filling the trays with media, moving stock around the nursery, all done relatively by hand. So that's all good and well in the 80s and 90s when we could actually afford staff and fuel was somewhat affordable. But as we move forward, that's not really the case so much anymore. And then, of course, we go into that mechanical assistance. So if you sort of think about the draft horses and the bullock trains of yesteryear, and then we move on to the tractors that we see on farms now. So for us, that's things like seeding lines and tray fillers and powered gantries. We've got these big gantries that run on rails that have got a generator on them, and they move stock around and do all the irrigation. And of course, as we go to that, there are some safety improvements. You think you're not lifting things as often and things like that, but then it introduces other safety risks with machinery running around. And there are definitely productivity gains, but of course, with that comes higher fuel use and carbon emissions and all the other things that we'd rather not have these days. If I skip forward here, I'll show you this. This is our rolling bed system. So if we think about that, the computerization of everything, we plug computers into everything now, and the automation starts to get quite cool. So this is our new site at Southbrook, and you can see that we have a rolling bench system here. So everything operates basically autonomously. The system automatically puts everything where it needs to go, and it's incredibly smart. It's a lot safer, much lower emissions, and far fewer staff required as well. Sorry, and if I go back here, so of course, then we get to where we are now, which is where we're trying to learn as much as we can about AI, and we're still going to need all of that infrastructure. We're still going to need the equipment. We're still going to need people to perform tasks. But if you think about it, we can just give everyone a bit of a turbo boost. Inject a bit of nitrous oxide into the system and supercharge everything. So I'll talk a little bit about that now. Oops, sorry, I'm skipping way ahead here. Here we go. So I just want to talk about this project that we've got on the go at the moment. So these two gentlemen at the front of this picture, that's Kasim and Andrew, who applied for a grant through the City of Greater Geelong and was successful in obtaining that. And it was based around helping us find efficiencies with our gas boilers using AI. And that project's nearing completion now. They've done a lot of good work. And I just wanted to sort of run through the importance of this the importance of this project, because not only has we will see some efficiencies of our boilers through this project, but it's opened our eyes and our minds to what's possible, and it's so much more than just what it started out to be. So if I just skip forward here, so this is just a little bit about what we've learned through this project. So our growers have been using our system for a long time. You know, that they knew we've got sensors everywhere and all that sort of thing. But I don't think as a business we fully grasp exactly what the value of that data is and what it can do for us long term, particularly now with AI coming online. So we've got something like 750 sensors across our Victorian site. And we've had those for about 16 years. And every 5 minutes, each one of those sensors there's a reading from one of those sensors being recorded in our system. So all in all, that means we've got something like 1 billion individual elements of data. So that is hugely valuable. You know, if you think businesses now thinking, okay, what can we do with AI? They'd all love to have that amount of data going back as long. So there's things like temperature, humidity, both inside and outside, wind direction, wind speed outside, water temperature of the water coming in through the pipes to heat the glass house, and so much more. So obviously, this project's also given us an idea of what the gaps are and what we're going to need. It was something like an in-house resource, so we're really thinking now, you know, we're going to need that those data analysts and things like that to help us along the way. And then just saying, you know, what else we can do, you know, just having a look at what other applications we can throw this to. In terms of what's possible, you know, I'll touch on that in a moment, but, you know, and Ben, who you'll hear from today, you know, I've heard a couple of his presentations and we're seeing just some of the applications that are available here. It's quite amazing. You know, I've heard of an operation over in the UK that are, you know, doing this real localized climate modeling that's just amazing. So really quite exciting. And then, of course, there's just a bit about how to approach AI as a business. So we talk about goal setting. So, you know, you've got to have a clear idea of what you're trying to achieve. I do sort of remind people that it's okay sometimes to just see something cool out in the field and go, actually, I reckon I could have a use for that. So still keep your mind open for that. But yeah, have an idea of your overall goals and what you're trying to do. Really important to get everyone on board with the process and what you're trying to achieve, and make sure that they're doing things in the right way. And I would also encourage you to collaborate wherever possible. Whether that's, you know, uni, we have a great relationship with a couple of unis, you know, with our industry organisations, you know, the RMCGs of the world, and any organisation that you can. So looking ahead to what's next. So this is just an idea of a project some projects we've identified of what we can do. So for us, you know, there are still some manual things like counting and the like, you know, counting our plants and things like that we're still a bit anachronistic in our approach to. So one thing we've thought of is, okay, if we're going to get serious about this, we need to find a way of capturing images. Now, an image isn't just necessarily something with your phone or a tablet. We're talking, you know, it might be an RGB image, but it might be thermal, it might be any number of different types of image, and they all give us data. So if you imagine, in our case, it's a seedling tray holding 144 plants that travels under it would actually be a group of trays, but they'll travel under a camera. So we'll capture that image, and that will then create that data that goes through, and we'll then manage that data. And I say manage because there's a whole lot, you know, you've got to secure that, and you've got to make sure that it's all being treated in the right way. And there's a fair bit of work there. So that'll go into the cloud, and we'll hold that for maybe a year. Then we go on to process that data. So at the moment, as I say, we count the individual plants. This can actually do that for us. We can assess the health of the plants. We can scout for bugs. We can track growth rates and predict when they're going to be ready for dispatch and all sorts of things. And then, of course, there's the recommendations. So AI can actually give us recommendations, or they can prompt the growers to perform an action. So they can say, hey, listen, you've got an issue here. These look a little bit dry. These are, you know, a little bit pale. You've got a particular pest here. We still want to have those people there. This is just giving them more tools in their bag. Alrighty, so I just want to quickly talk about this. Now, everyone's going to have their own approach, but this is just, I guess, my read on the approach. So you've got your starting point and where to start with AI. So as I said, you've got to identify your needs. So figure out where you've got a particularly laborious or time-consuming task, or something where you can maybe make someone's life easier, one of your team, whoever it is, make their life a little bit easier. Figure out what you're trying to achieve. What are you willing to spend? That's an important one. Some of this stuff's going to get expensive. It sounds easy to set up all these cameras and things, but there's going to be a cost associated, and figuring out that, the cost and then the possible return. And yeah, really being really clear about your goals and getting everyone involved to figure that out. Obviously, the setup. So I talked about filling the gaps. So already with us, we're going, okay, what are the gaps? Do we need more sensors? Do we need to be measuring different things? Already we've looked at this boiler project. We're looking at, okay, we need something closer to the boiler that really measures more accurately when the boilers are coming on and exactly how much gas is being used. So we're already identifying those gaps that we want to bring in. And figuring out what other data we need to incorporate. And as I say, just that image, that is more data. So we've identified what we need. I guess thinking about yourself in 5 years' time and saying, okay, when I'm sitting there, what's the stuff that I'm gonna want to have? So then we move on to the execution, adopting that equipment, the infrastructure, and all the systems, everything you need, and managing that whole process, whether that you might need people to manage that for you or develop those systems. There's experts in the field that can help with that. And this is an important one, and I think Ben's going to touch on this quite a bit as well, is just checking. So it's imperfect. AI is not perfect. We see some kooky stuff come up from time to time. Yes, it's getting better, but it always needs to be checked. Don't assume that it's right. There's a great adage that I've heard years ago around sports statistics. And it was saying, statistics should be used like a drunk uses a lamp pole for support, not illumination, right? So you need to have an idea of what the information is going to tell you, and if it's sort of validating that, great, or if it's giving you a starting point, you can explore it more deeply. But it's an extension of your business. Don't just hand everything over to it. And that is just about it from me, Clinton. I think I just about stayed, or maybe a couple of minutes over, but I did pretty well in staying on time. So thanks everyone, and I'll be around for more questions at the end.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Heath. Thank you so much for sharing that outline from Boomeroo. Look, some really exciting stuff. You guys are at the cusp of that journey. Just while Jake's bringing up his slide deck, I was really keen to hear about that loads of data that you guys have in place there, and effectively utilizing that, but also that goal setting as a business, but also that caution use. So some really exciting stuff to happen there. So I encourage anyone, if they've got questions, to fire them away in the chat. We'll make sure we come back to Heath, and we've got plenty of time to talk that through. But just passing over to Jake Ryan now, over in Manjinup from 3 Ryans, and part of the Warren Cauliflower Improvement Group. Some very exciting stuff these guys have been up to through a grower-led process. So all over to you, Jake.
Right, thank you very much. So yeah, my name is Jake Ryan. I'm a vegetable grower from Manjinup, Western Australia, and I've been asked to have a little chat about what we're up to with the open source weed locator. Okay, so looking at the background of the project. So a few years ago now, pre-emergent herbicide Bactal got taken off the market. It pretty much happened overnight, and it caught a lot of local growers off guard. So we're all left sort of in the lurch. So I made us start looking into alternate means of weed control, because if I could do it for one chemical, there's a fair chance I could do it for most chemicals. So we started looking into robotic weeding. Turns out robotic weeding is quite expensive, whether that's laser, chemical, or mechanical. So we're looking at $250,000 to a couple of $1 million for a machine. Now, yeah, in our area, everyone's pretty much small family farms, and these machines were just out of our price range. So we sort of shelved the idea on mechanical weeding. And a couple of months later, an article came out in the WA Growers magazine about a bloke by the name of Guy Coleman. So Guy presented at AgEvoke, and he was talking about his open source weed locator. So I ended up getting in contact with him, and so what the open source weed locator is, so the OWL, it's an open source camera that anyone can download the blueprints offline, build the camera, and they've got a camera that can then be used to identify weeds in a crop. So I started working with Guy and having a chat with him, and asked if he'd been using this machine in vegetable production. And at that time, it was only for broadacre. So we decided to adapt it for vegetable production. So the original owl was one camera would control 4 solenoids, and each solenoid would spray about a 250 ml strip. So great for broadacre, vegetables, not so great, not accurate enough. So we redesigned the camera. So now each camera will do 16 solenoids and be 2.5 centimetre in terms of accuracy. So after we sort of got the project started, we then reached out to VegNet and we got project funded so we could go across to Copenhagen to catch up with Guy, run a few workshops and see the owl in actually being used, as well as go to a few AgTech field days. So the problem that the old owl's going to solve is that there's a lot of problems it's going to solve, really. First one's herbicide resistance. So herbicide resistance in agriculture is obviously a big issue. So the plan is that we're going to use things like acids. So nitric acid is probably where we're going to go. The idea there is that there's 3 main ideas there. So the first one is nitric acid's non-corrosive stainless steel. So the injectors and spray bar itself is going to be made of stainless. So by using nitric acid, we won't wear parts out. The second one is the machine is going to be not perfect. It's going to be obviously on the cheap side. So potential to misfire. So if we misfire and hit the plant and we're using something like glyphosate that's systemic, hits that leaf, you kill the crop. But if we have a misfire and it hits the crop, it hits the leaf, it's going to kill the leaf of the plant. So the idea is that we'll be going out and spraying the crop when the weeds are at cotyledon or first leaf stage and burning them off when they're young. And the last one is nitric acid then acts as a fertilizer. So nitric acid would react with something like your lime, calcium carbonate, and create calcium nitrate, and you end up having a fertilizer being created from going out and spraying your weeds. The machine's going to be affordable. So a complete machine we should be looking at somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000, probably closer to 20, but we haven't actually finished building one yet, so we haven't got the final costings on it. All be your own data or open source, hopefully, and there's no subscription fees. So this is a machine, you download blueprints online, you build it yourself, or you pay someone to build it for you, and all of a sudden you've got a weed up for you at a low cost. And this gives us options for small family farms or farms that can't afford the big machines straight off the market. So yeah, it just allows a point for those smaller farmers like ourselves to actually get into the ag tech sector using robotic weeding. Currently, we're still developing the green on green, but you can go onto the website at the moment and download the blueprints for the camera, and the camera will do green on brown. So we'll spray a green weed on a brown background. So your bare fallow sprays, or if you want to go out and spray a crop before it emerges and take out the weeds before crop emergence, then it can be used for that. And like I was saying, we're developing it for green on green. So they'll be able to teach the camera to identify a green weed in a green crop. So how's this going to work? So there's 4 different ways we could go about it, but the second option here is probably what we'll look at. So the first one is you identify the weed, and whether that weed is under the crop or next to the crop, it's going to spray the weed. So you'll sacrifice the crop to kill the weed, just so that you have a clean field. So things like your vegetable seed production, things like that, where you've got high value crops, where you have to sacrifice some crop to make sure you've got a clean field. You could use an algorithm like that. Or you could tell the machine that, no, we don't want to spray the crop. We just want to spray the weed. And if the weed is located underneath the crop, then leave the weed to save the crop. Or you could tell it the opposite, just spray the crop. We'll just spray your insecticide or fungicide, fertilizer directly on the crop and not waste chemical elsewhere. Or the last one, do the opposite and spray like your pre-emergent herbicide on everything else but the crop. So a little bit about the trip. So VegNet funded us with FarmLink to go across to Copenhagen, Amsterdam. So where we learned about yeah, pretty much robotics and the uses in agriculture. The main thing that we went across for was to go across to University of Copenhagen, where we met up with Guy Coleman, and we went to the lab and we built cameras from scratch. And it was, yeah, really interesting. It was well worth the trip. So within 1 hour, we were able to build a camera from scratch. If you were to build a second one, you'd be able to do it in half an hour. They're extremely simple to build. We couldn't believe how easy they actually were to build. Programming them and putting the coding into them took us maybe an hour. And then probably the most time-consuming thing was calibrating the camera to detect light, or to detect green. So, because these are just green and brown cameras we're building, external light changes the way that the camera views green. So if you're in a shower, I suppose, like overcast day, green appears a different color than it is on a sunny day. So that's why you see most of these machines you buy off the market are always under shrouds, under artificial lighting. So you're trying to keep external lighting consistent. So, and these cameras will be under $1,000 each to build. So they're extremely affordable. And here's a few options of how the hours are being used. So on the left there, we've got attached to a bike, probably not ideal for spraying chemical, but very low cost system for applying whatever you need to do, probably fertilizer, not so much chemical. Or you could attach it to a robot like the picture on the right there. So you can go out and it'd be a fully autonomous machine. So our next steps. So developing the green on green technology is where we're at. So the plan is to make an open source weed library. And for that, we need around 10,000 to 50,000 images of each plant. So that would be 50,000 images. So the photo on your right, the dark red or dark purple, I suppose, is red cabbage. That's been annotated. And the light green is a wild radish plant that's been annotated. And we need 50,000 annotations of each plant. So we need 50,000 annotations of red cabbage, 50,000 annotations of wild radish, 50,000 annotations of a ryegrass plant, and whatever weeds it is to identify. The reason there is that we need to capture these annotations under numerous different growth stages, different lighting, different weather, and even soil background makes a difference. So if you're on a dark soil versus a lighter soil, it affects the way the camera actually sees the plant. The original plan was to make it a little bit simpler and just to tell it to identify, well, in this example, just identify the red cabbage. The issue with that is that the machine gets confused. If you tell it to spray everything but the red cabbage and you only tell it what a red cabbage looks like, the machine, I'm not sure why, but it gets confused and doesn't really spray anything or oversprays and sprays the crop. So you actually have to teach it everything it sees and needs to know what it's seeing. And the last thing we're doing is we're still developing the spray bar. So these are the tech drawings. Actually, we've done a fair bit more than what we got here. It's just I didn't have them on the computer at the time. I was making the slides. So this is what we're up to. So we've got tech drawings pretty well completed for the spray bar. We've got a little bit more to do, but things are a little bit slow because the issue we got is everything we're doing is volunteer. So I donate my time to get the data collection. Parts Engineering are donating their time to actually do the tech drawings and help us build the spray bar. And Guy Coleman's helping us donate his time as well to get the photos annotated and the model made and cameras built. So because it's all volunteer work, it's, yeah, things are a bit slow. You've got to do it after hours, and I just had a kid, and the bloke who's doing the tech drawings, he's just had a kid. So children seem to slow things up a lot. So we're a little bit behind where we wanted to be, but we'll get there slowly. And I suppose we just need a bit more funding from hopefully industry to help us out just to finish it off. So we can have some open source weeders out there that any grower can build and download the weed library for them. And that is me out of time. I just want to quickly thank Guy Coleman and Open Weed Locator for his help, VegNet for sending us across to Copenhagen to learn all about VL and different applications for it, and FarmLink for also donating some money to help us get across to Europe. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Jake. And look, there's a lot of annotations you've got to work through there. But look, what a fantastic example of a grower-led initiative to play around with AI, and that fantastic partnership you've had there with VegNet, WA, and the Hort Innovation Vegetable Innovation Fund, as well as some of those other partners with FarmLink and Vegetables WA. Collaboration there at play with AI is fantastic to see. Certainly, if you've got any questions for Jake about the Open Weed Locator and how you might get involved with that, fire away in the chat. We'll get to that in a second. But I'm going to pass over to Ben Finkel now from ARAIN. I've had the chance to interact with Ben quite a lot over the last 6 months, and every time I chat, I learn something new about AI. So I'm expecting to learn a lot now, Ben. Over to you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon or good morning, depends where you're logging in from in this great country of ours. I'm going to share just a few slides and talk to them before going into a demo. And we're trying to cram quite a bit in. So hopefully you can reflect on this once you get the video and go through it a little bit more systematically. But let me share the screen and we'll get firing. Okay. All right. So before we get hands-on with the AI demo, I want to look and talk about something important, which is really using AI responsibly. Any opportunity we have to get in front of growers, we want to tap into a couple of these important topics. Some people see AI as magic. Clinton's certainly one of them. I'm certainly one of them. Others might see it as a threat, but really it's just a new tool like any other technology that's changed how we work over time. So the goal isn't to replace people, it's to use AI in a way that helps us make better, safer, and smarter decisions. The Australian National AI Centre, of which we support, has pulled together a national guidance on this. And this is not regulation, it's not red tape, it's just a practical framework for using AI responsibly. Think of it a little like best practice guide for the whole country. And there are 6 essential practices to make it real, right? So the first one is to decide who's accountable. So someone has to own it. Just like someone is responsible for the spray schedule, the irrigation system, or the books, AI needs a person who's accountable for how it's used and what its outputs. So you can't just say, the computer told me so, right? So accountable is very important. Understanding the impact and to plan accordingly is the second step. And before you plug in a new tool or start relying on an AI model, really just stop and think, what could this change? Does it affect staff? Does it affect suppliers? Does it affect customers? Could it mislead or make a decision that needs checking? Planning ahead saves you cleaning up later. So it's a good thing to pause and reflect. The third is around measuring and managing risks. So you already do this in farming, whether it's your weather, your pests, your costs, your machinery. It's all about risk management, and AI is no different. If you're using AI to make decisions, you need to understand what could go wrong and have a plan to manage it. So it does, again, require you to pause and reflect. The fourth one is sharing or share essential information. And this is about being open about what AI is doing in your operations. If you're using it to make predictions about yields or prices, share that with the people it affects. It builds trust and it helps others in the use of responsible AI as well. Test and monitor. You don't just buy a new bit of kit and assume it's always going to work perfectly. Same goes with AI. Test it, see it if it's accurate, and keep checking over time. So AI models can drift, and they can get things wrong if the data changes. So be mindful. If you build something with a set of data, the data changes and you haven't got a live feed, check it, monitor it. Maintaining human control is the last one, and it's straightforward. This one's key. AI should support decisions, not make them for you, and always keep a person in the loop, someone who can sense check the output and decide what happens next. So this guidance isn't about slowing you down. It's about helping you use AI safely and with confidence. You stay in control, you decide how it fits your business, and you make sure it works for you, not the other way around. On the next couple of slides, we'll talk about the one way to think about AI that helps you make it all sort of easier and treating it like your intern, which is who is a fast, eager helper who still needs direction. Then we'll go to a level deeper into how to give it the right context to understand your world before we jump into a live demo. So thinking of AI as an enthusiastic intern is a way that I like to introduce it to myself, my peers, and my family. It can take on tasks to free you up, but it doesn't yet understand everything about your business. Just as you wouldn't throw an intern into the deep end unsupervised, don't expect AI to replace human judgment. Use it to extend your capabilities, not to abdicate responsibility. An intern learns through feedback and improves over time. Similarly, AI outputs are iterative. The first answer might not be perfect. That's normal. Ask follow-up questions, refine prompts, and provide context. Always check its work, just like you would review an intern's output. Over time, both you and your AI assistant will build a productive rhythm together. And I've mentioned context a couple of times. It's very, very, very important, because now that we've talked about using AI responsibly and thought about it like your intern, let's take that one step further. Because when you hire a new worker, you don't just tell them what to do. You show them how things work around the farm. You explain the workflows, the language you use, what good looks like, and the rules they need to follow. That's what context engineering is all about. You're giving AI the same kind of environment, the background it needs to work properly for your operations. It's made up of 4 critical things: the workflows, how your jobs actually get done, the language being the terms and shorthands people use every day, the knowledge, so what data, what records, what local know-how you want to inject, and the rules, so the boundaries, safety checks, the standards you want to follow. When all that's in a place, AI doesn't just spit out answers. It helps deliver outcomes that fit your world. And that is where I'd like to now take us to. We'll just close that here. All right, so just so I can make sure I can see everybody still, let me just... All right, so I'm now going to go through a couple of the publicly available tools. I'm going to be showing you both ChatGPT and Claude. I am using my second monitor here, so if I'm shifting my view, that's the reason why. The reason we're showing ChatGPT and Claude is because they're the 2 more user-friendly and applicable tools in the AI space. Obviously, Copilot is out there as well. It just has a degree of limitations, and we can talk about that at a separate conversation. But we're going to use Chat. I think the last most recent take on the number of users was about 800 million weekly users, and it was short of 3 billion prompts a day. Very active, and obviously what most of us use. So what I wanted to do is navigate to a couple of things on ChatGPT that you may or not be aware of, but then show you how to apply it with spreadsheets, with documents and information to get real output around your business. So we're quite familiar with this interface. What we will talk about today is the space around here on the left, which are GPTs. These are dedicated custom spaces for your content. We've also got here projects, and you can see there's a number of projects I've already got started. We'll touch on that if we have a bit of time, and then I'm going to go into Claude as well. So the first thing that we want to establish is that I've gone ahead and, we'll just show you how to do it in case you are not familiar. you go and explore your GPTs, you'll see with a bit of lag, and I'm sorry. Well, that's not a good start. There we go. You can come in here and you can actually search global GPTs, people who have made things public and available. Any topic, whether you're playing guitars or you're riding motorbikes, there's a huge amount of information in there. We've come in here and pressed create, and I have pre-filled one already for our conversation today. When you come into a new environment like this, you can actually come and select a user prompt to help you build out and configure the custom GPT. Here, you can ask it any question and it will then start to build it out for you. In today's demonstration, we wanted to build one for Green Valley Vegetable Farms. It's a Victorian operations, and the core task is to help with financial analysis, workforce optimization, crop health, cost reduction, equipment management, strategic planning, and professional correspondence. All of this is being built into this custom GPT so that I can connect my financial and operational information, some agronomical data, and get clear insights. To show you the type of information that I've got in here, I have all of these files in here. So satellite drone imagery, information around what's been captured. So this is raw data that's come from drones. Production yield data. We've got supplier agreements. Okay. Renewable data set, weather condition data. This is a lot of information that you would have available to you within systems that you could output or already in spreadsheets. We've got some farm operation financials. We've got spray records. So a lot of data. And so I've brought that data in here as zip files because there is a limit in a custom GPT around 20 files. So I've brought it as zip files. I've made sure there's code interpretation selected. And the most important thing, I've provided instructions on how it should behave. And what I've done is put it into a Word document here so I can share with you the kind of things that I have stated here. Apart from the persona that they are in terms of an assistant, I've provided capabilities about what it can do. So it can analyze financial data, EBITDA, cash flow, assess operations, look at information around NDVI, irrigation, pest, soil data, all the things I just showed you. What it can't do is provide legal, medical, or investment advice. It can certainly give you insights, but the decision still needs to be with you. I've injected it with the AusVeg most recent sentiment report. I've provided a response framework around how I want every response to be. So lead with an answer, cite the data sources, quantify the impact, acknowledge the limits, structure it in a way that is easy to read, and you'll see all of these outputs in a moment, and onwards. So how to behave when it's a question about operations, how to ask a question with agronomy, and in terms of email, the style, the email format, the scenarios, the ethics, the data files, and an intro. Now, you can do this yourselves, as I said, by coming in here and just pressing dictate and saying, hey, I'm building a custom GPT and these are the frameworks that I want. This is how I want it to function. Or you can just take your time to fill it out. If we had a bit more time, I'd take you through a lot more of that, but this is the structure it. Then you go and update it, and this is the engagement. So now what we'll do is we'll go and set a few questions to see how it responds. So, I mean, this is a question about whether I'm in financial trouble, what's my biggest cost problems, and which customers are profitable. So standard questions when it comes to financial management. It's searched my information. It's understood the structure and the way in which I want it to be shared with me. And it's either a slow internet, I don't know, but it's just churning things a little bit slower than usual. But straight away, you can see the executive summary. It's saying, yes, I have got some financial difficulties that I am working through. Labour and input costs are squeezing margins. I've got really one main customer in Woolies, and it gives me the snapshot there. It then goes in a layer deeper around the financial assessment, where my margins are. It's not sustainable at the moment around my EBITDA. My input prices, it then looks at some of the bigger cost problems. So obviously labour hire, but it doesn't just identify labour hire. It explains from which agreement and my average weekly labour costs. Secondly, it's fertiliser. So it's my main input is with contracts with Incitec Pivot, and it talks around the inputs, looks at customer profitability and the numbers there, the root causes of cost inflation without price rise, and some recommendations. And this is where it becomes very handy. It talks about what I might want to look at renegotiating in the next 6 months, how I might be able to reforecast some of my cash flow, and it looks at the limitations around that and some suggested next steps. That's great. Now I want to look at some workforce challenges. So I'm going to add a couple of new questions.
Mueller to everyone. Ben's got a few things to show. We'll keep him going until the hour. Hard deadline. But if you do have a question of either Heath, Jake or Ben, please ask away and we'll make sure we get to it.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I should be able to get this done in 10 minutes. So I wanted to show this. So we've got 6 vacant positions. What's this costing me? Should I use labour hire or keep recruiting? So again, same format, executive summary, where I'm actually losing per week if in missed output, looks at my vacant positions, identifies the metrics that are important to me, starts to break down the recruitment versus labour hire cost comparison tables, giving me a couple of options, looks at the immediate impact, provides me again the recommendations, gives me a summary table, and offers some next steps, which is wonderful. Now we actually want to do some agronomy advice. So my broccoli in North 1 looks sick. What's wrong? And then it goes and produces that. So we'll skip this because it'll go on forever. I'm going to add the next piece, which is, should I sell the farm? Or can this be saved? And analyze my woolies. So again, it stresses the fact that I'm over-reliant on one customer. I've got some labour issues and input cost issues. It highlights the things that I'm dependent on, looks at cash flow timing. And as you can see, these are good scenarios to work through that you can do independently before then going and getting advice from your bank, your advisors, your family. And it's consistently showing me what I should be focused on in the right formats. And what I'll do lastly in this scenario is show you how I might want to draft an email. So I've already provided the context. The context. I want to write an email to Incitec Pivot around the price increases. And because the framework's already there and the information is there, it's having a nice little think about how to frame it. It's saying to you, you can see it there, I need to write a formal email to Incitec Pivot, and here it is. So, hi Sarah, writing regarding the recent fertiliser price movements. It uses a lot of the data that's already there, so it's professional and timely, and a few bullet points, why this works to both sides, etc., and next steps. So I hope that has shown you how versatile it can be when you build and leverage things like ChatGPT this way. Next, I wanted to show you what we can do with a tool very similar to ChatGPT called Claude, and it's established by a company called Anthropic. Similar thing, afternoon, Ben, just nicely laid out. Same scenario, you've got projects and you've got your chats. What I've done is I've got 3 spreadsheets, and these 3 spreadsheets are here. So I've got a performance spreadsheet around how things are mapping in on the farm. I've got a weekly cost breakdown of that and a production sales spreadsheet as well. And what I've asked it to do is to create a dashboard, a profit trend, cost per ton, ROI by field, and top 3 problems. And what it's gone and done is it's had a good think about what I've asked it to do. It's then gone ahead and actually examined it. It's looked at the data structure. It started to create a comprehensive dashboard. It's then come back and said, okay, the dashboard is ready. It has created the dashboard, and it's given you here as well the actual interactive panel information. So it highlights what it's prepared. It's given you here on the left-hand side, you know, the actual findings. So at a snapshot, you can see the information very clearly. Obviously, you've got it as a dashboard here on the right as well. But the beautiful thing here is it's gone and built an executive summary that you can then download. So straight away, you can see the period. You can look at the performance snapshot. So the value and the status, it gives me a nice table of where I'm at. And it's given me the top 3 insights, where I'm strong and stable, cost efficiencies that are improving, the field performance that I can be proud of. And then it looks at some of the problems and the solutions. So I've got irrigation issues. I've had 8 occurrences, and I need to quickly and immediately fix that. It looks at the thrift detection. There's been 8 occurrences there as well. There's minor aphids that needs to be looked at. Priorities recommendation in terms of, you know, what I need to do now and the budget estimate that I might need to look to invest. So around my irrigation system and what I need to, you know, factor in around my different blocks. And then it looks at the financial opportunity around those investments, alternative technology alignments. So ready now, what we can do around this, and benchmark comparison, which is always very helpful as well. So that is really what I wanted to do. And I think I've done it in 19 minutes, Clinton. So it gives us time to open questions and pass back to the group.
That's fantastic, Ben. Thanks for running that through. Haven't seen any questions come through yet, so if anyone's got anyone, please fire away. There's that Q&A function there in the chat as well. Ben, I'm just going to put you on the spot, because I think this is another question I hear all the time when we look at data, because that's fantastic to look at that analysis capacity between some of your files. Talk to us about data security. What does that mean? You know, where should I be sensitive about my files from my business and the extent to which I engage with these platforms?
Yeah, no, all great questions and things we all need to be mindful of. So first of all, when in a ChatGPT or a Claude, pay for those subscriptions. That's like any of your current subscriptions, whether it's your email, it's your CRM or ERP, anything that is cloud sits on the cloud. So as long as you've got a subscription, your data is protected. I think I mentioned that crazy number of 3 billion prompts and 800 million users a week. There are so few. I thought if data was a risk, that there'd be a lot more court cases, a lot more issues, a lot more spelled out in the news. With those volumes, we're just not seeing much. So we know that the data, once stored properly, is okay. Now, free versions are available, of course, in the settings. You can now, especially with ChatGPT, go into settings and personalize and remove the option for them to train the model on your data. So that enables you to just have a little bit more safety. If there are other concerns, I will quickly share the screen, because people need to know that these options exist. So what we do for a lot of our customers who want to have this information sitting on Microsoft Azure or AWS is we build these containers, they're called RAGs, for your data that are then managed by a MCP server, which is a modern context protocol server, built by Anthropic, but all the platforms use, which means you can have a safe environment with a lot of workflows executed online, but then delivered through your Copilot, delivered through your ChatGPT, or delivered through your Claude. These can be done and are being done to enable additional protection, or a layer of protection.
That's great. Thanks for that, Ben. Heath, I'm just going to throw to yourself, similar question in terms of BIMRA, you guys are going through that policy perspective from a practical business sense. Is there anything you're able to share comfortably about where you guys are at with that discussion?
Yeah, so we're already using AI in the same way that a lot of people are, you know, in terms of chats and everything else. You know, we sort of brought everything into Copilot and, you know, tried to do that, and Copilot has its limitations. You know, it's sort of now tapping into other forms to try and increase its effectiveness. But yeah, I guess just, you know, we were a little bit restrictive with what people can tell free versions and things like this, just to try and, you know, and as Ben will say, you know, you can opt in and out of learning, you know, of providing that information to teach the models and things like that. I think aside from I guess there's just, I look at it as like a best practice thing, right? It's, you know, the things that Ben's been talking about setting up, you know, custom GTPs. God, I always think it's weird when people get that acronym around the wrong way. You've got to spend a little bit of time to set these things up, right? Because you can really quickly lose faith in them, in these models, because you go, oh, it's just not giving me what I want. It's like anything in life, right? Whether it's parenting or your work life or anything, you only get you get so much more out of it if you just put a bit of effort in. Set it all up properly, and the data that you get back is so much better. So giving it access to documents, as Ben went through, you know, feeding documents in. Little things like telling it, okay, how do you like the information to come back? You know, they're so nice. You know, you get that thing. You know, there was a great video the other week where it was a guy holding up two phones, and it was two different chats saying goodbye to each other, and it goes on for like 3 minutes, where each one of them has to have the last say of going, okay, have a great day, see you later. Oh, thanks for that. You too. Yeah, see you later. Okay, bye. It's like trying so hard to be nice, and sometimes you got to say to it, don't be nice to me, just give me what I need, you know, tell me the information. Don't say, oh, great question. Just tell me the answer, you know. So you've got to structure it the way you want to have it. And then what'll happen is you'll use it more and more, and you'll get the full power out of it without the frustration. So I'd say that's probably, yeah, from my point of view, it's just doing the work to get it set up right in the first place.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for that, Heath. Jake, I'm keen just to throw back to yourself quickly in terms of, I guess, the hardware line. You guys have gone down with the cameras and exploration there. What do you hope is the real outcome for you guys in exploring that? What does that look like on farm for you?
Hopefully we'll have a working demonstration by March. I think that's the plan at the minute. I mean, we've been using a few of these tools as well, ChatGPTs and Gemini and Grok and Claude and all that, to help the annotations, and Guy uses it a fair bit. I mean, I'm not a full bottle on the whole AI sector, and I'm still learning as well. But yeah, hopefully, yeah, we'll have a working model, as in the model that runs on the cameras and actual hardware done by March. But yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Some exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to keeping eyes on that. Ben, I guess I'm just going to throw finally to yourself. Like, I'm curious, where for someone who just wants to try this stuff for the first time, like, what's a starting point look like? What should they do? What should they look out for?
Yeah, look, AI in the office is really the first place. So start looking at your SOPs, looking at the way you run your business day to day. And there are probably in every workflow or SOP, there are two branches that you should just be mindful of. The first will be dependency on data, and the other will be dependency on advice. And as you go through your workflows or your SOPs, as you pause to reflect on your operations, anytime there is a dependency on data or advice, ask yourself, can I lean on AI to support that? Can it be autonomous? Can it provide up-to-date information to support decision-making? And as you go through that, you'll quickly see that there are a good percentage of your workload can be shifted to AI, as you saw in today's demo.
Fantastic. No, look, thank you everyone for sharing that today. We have come up to the hour, so I just want to, a huge thank you to Heath, Jake, and Ben for sharing your experience, your insights, and perspectives today. It's certainly clear that AI isn't just something on the horizon anymore. It is already starting to make a big difference in the way we interact with our businesses and starting with our business planning. And what we monitor and manage our operations. So certainly equally clear that there is opportunity to explore these tools in ways that are very practical, that can be very cost effective with some off-the-shelf tools already and built and customized around our existing needs. So if today's session has sparked any ideas or questions, certainly encourage you to head over to the Soil Wealth ICP website. Today's recording will be made available there, and we'll also keep linking in some relevant resources and materials as they come to hand. But just before I wrap up, I I'm hoping I'm sharing that screen. I just want to share this number that Ben's team at ARAIN has put together. So this is certainly a great way to start that interaction with AI, and calling that Victorian 03 landline number is actually going to be an AI bot answering on the phone. So certainly feel free to call this at any time of the day. Ignore it 1 o'clock in the morning when you wake up, but certainly a great way to speak to an AI bot about what your interests and needs or opportunities around AI can be. So certainly touching base with that number will capture some details and information, but help shape and inform future direction around how AI tools can better support industry going forward. But just certainly on behalf of the Soil Wealth ICP teams, thank you again for joining us today. Thanks again, Heath, Jake, and Ben, and hope you have a great rest of the day. Cheers.